Since Soviet times, artillery has played a central role in the Kremlin's war-fighting doctrine, and it remains essential to offensive operations by the modern-day Russian military. Alarmingly, multiple reports so far have highlighted the apparently indiscriminate use of Russian offensive weapons, including artillery shells, among civilian populations, causing predictable devastation as a result. Should artillery begin to be used more extensively in these scenarios, it's inevitable that such incidents will only multiply. In other words, Russia has the ability to unleash horrific barrages on civilian areas, causing destruction in Europe, the likes of which we have not seen since World War II. Of course, artillery is not only relevant to breaking down the resistance in besieged cities. Still, the pattern of the conflict so far, and the fact that Russian air power has apparently had limited effect on the ground war, does present the possibility that the fighting is about to enter a new phase, and one that could be dominated by artillery bombardments. In particular, the Ukrainian capital Kyiv, which would be a key prize should Moscow manage to take it, could find itself on the receiving end of even fiercer artillery barrages. Today, we will show you the list of Russian arsenal artillery that can damage Ukrainian cities. TOS-7, Pion TOS-7M Malka. With its development starting in the late 1960s as the Soviet Army's new large-caliber self-propelled artillery piece, the TOS-7 combines a 203mm 2A44 gun with a tracked chassis featuring all-welded steel armor. The design came from the Kyiv factory, which also produced the T-64 main battle tank. Known initially as the Pion, the TOS-7 entered Soviet service in around 1975, and it's estimated that more than 1,000 examples were produced. The original model was followed by the improved TOS-7M Malka that features revisions to the chassis, engine, ammunition loading system, and fire control. Overall, the TOS-7 chassis is divided into 4 compartments: drivers, power pack, crew, and rear compartment, and accommodates 7 crew, together with space for a man-portable air defense system, manpads. The vehicle has a front dozer blade to allow it to dig into its own firing position, and a recoil space at the rear to provide stability. Using normal ammunition, without any kind of rocket assistance, the 2A44 gun can hit targets at a range of 23 miles. 4 projectiles are carried in the vehicle, increased to 8 in the TOS-7M, with accompanying vehicles having more ammunition inside, which is then delivered using hand carts. The main types of ammunition include high explosive rocket-assisted, 30-mile range, concrete piercing, and tactical nuclear rounds. The ammunition handling system can provide a rate of fire of 2 rounds per minute, increased to 2.5 per minute in the TOS-7M. Like most Soviet-designed military vehicles of its vintage, the TOS-7 is provided with a nuclear, biological, and chemical (NBC) protection system. TOS-19 msta-s. Developed during the 1980s, the msta was intended to replace the Soviets' earlier 152mm TOS-3 and TOS-5 self-propelled artillery pieces and retained the same caliber of ammunition. The new system was fielded just before the demise of the Soviet Union, with each battery normally having 6 guns. A total of 3 batteries would normally be found in each regiment. By 2020, around 600 examples of the self-propelled msta-s were thought to have been completed, these using a chassis derived from that of main battle tanks, including the suspension and running gear of the T-80 and the diesel power pack from the T-72. The vehicle consists of a driver's compartment at the front, a turret in the center, and a power pack at the rear. There are 5 crew members. Defensive armament consists of a 12.7mm heavy machine gun on the roof. A front dozer blade is used to prepare firing positions and to clear obstacles. The main gun is the 2A64 that fires a high explosive fragmentation round to a distance of 15 miles. Other ammunition includes a base bleed type that extends the range to 18 miles, a sub-munitions round with high explosive anti-tank, heat, bomblets, an electronic warfare jamming round, smoke, and the Krasnopol laser-guided projectile. The latter is guided onto the target in the terminal phase using a tripod-mounted laser designator. The rate of fire is between 7 and 8 rounds per minute. In total, 50 rounds of ammunition are carried, and the gun can be reloaded while firing, using a conveyor system at the back of the turret. In the TOS-19M version, the accuracy and speed of response of the gun are improved by the addition of an automatic gun fire control system of AGFCS with a ballistic computer, satellite navigation system, and automatic gun laying system. 2A-65, msta-b. The msta-b is recognizable for its elongated 54 caliber barrel, capped by a monoblock 3-chamber muzzle brake. The barrel assembly sits underneath two prominent recoil dampers and is fed via an elaborate breech block. It retains a Soviet vintage splinter shield with viewing ports for the optical sights used by the crew, who number 8 in total. Since it follows a conventional howitzer layout, the msta-b's operation isn't too complicated, and its designers added as many features that improved its handling. Each of its trails are equipped with large spades to better secure the gun before firing. Two pivoting trailing wheels are located near the spades for added mobility. To further stabilize the gun, a large screw jack is located beneath the barrel assembly's carriage. Related to the sta-s is the towed version of the same 152mm gun howitzer, the 2A-65 msta-b. This fires the same ammunition types as the sta-s and can similarly deliver a high explosive projectile to a distance of 15 miles. TOS-3 Akatsia. The TOS-3 Akatsia emerged from a 1967 requirement for a new 152mm self-propelled artillery piece for the Soviet Army. The 2A-33 main gun is a version of the D-20 towed gun howitzer piece and used the same ammunition, while the tracked chassis was based on that used for the Krug SA-4 Ganef surface-to-air missile system, but with a more powerful diesel engine and upgraded suspension. Service entry followed in around 1971, and the TOS-3 was originally fielded on the basis of 18 per tank division and 18 per mechanized rifle division. A battery normally consists of 6 TOS-3s, with 3 batteries in each regiment. The production totals for the TOS-3 are enormous. Around 10,000 are thought to have been produced. The TOS-3 is based around a vehicle with 3 compartments: drivers, power pack, and the turret at the rear. A 7.62mm machine gun is fitted on the all-welded steel armor turret for self-defense. The rear part of the hull includes space for 33 rounds of ammunition, while the improved TOS-3M and TOS-3M1 can accommodate an additional 12 rounds. Normally, additional ammunition is transported by a 6x6 truck and loaded via a hatch in the TOS-3's turret. 2 ammunition handlers in the ammunition carrier support the 4 crew in the TOS-3 itself. The primary ammunition is a high explosive fragmentation round with a maximum range of 11.5 miles. A wide variety of other ammunition can be fired, including high explosive anti-tank, heat, high explosive rocket-assisted projectile, armor-piercing, illuminating, smoke, incendiary, flechette, scatterable mines, and the Krasnopol laser-guided projectile. Despite the introduction of the TOS-19 msta-s, the TOS-3 remains widespread in Russian service, as has been evidenced by its appearance in the Ukrainian conflict. Ukraine also operates the TOS-3. TOS-1 Gvozdika. The Cold War era TOS-1 Gvozdika 122mm self-propelled artillery system was created at the same time as the 152mm TOS-3. The system combines a gun that's based on the 122mm D-30 towed gun howitzer together with a tracked chassis based on that of the Montana LB multi-purpose armored tracked vehicle. The TOS-1 first entered Soviet service around 1972, with over 100,000 examples thought to have been built up to 1991, when production ceased. In Soviet times, the TOS-1 was issued on the basis of 36 per artillery division and 36 per motorized rifle division, while tank divisions had 72. Originally, each TOS-1 battalion had 3 batteries of 6 guns each. The all-welded steel hull features 3 compartments: drivers, power pack, and the turret at the rear. The crew of 4 on the vehicle itself is supported by 2 ammunition loaders who are on the ammunition carrier vehicle. As well as being amphibious, the TOS-1 has several other novel features, including suspension levels that can be altered to ease transport in an aircraft cargo hold, and 2 different track options, with wider ones available for moving over swampy or snowy ground. The 2A-31 main gun is able to achieve a sustained rate of fire of 5 to 8 rounds per minute, and the vehicle carries 40 projectiles, normally 32 high explosive, 6 smoke, and 2 high explosive anti-tank fins stabilized. The standard high explosive round can be fired to a range of 9.5 miles. Other ammunition options include leaflet, high explosive rocket assisted, range of 13.5 miles, armor piercing high explosive, flechette, and illumination. although the Russian military apparently planned to phase out the 122mm caliber of artillery and no direct replacement was developed for the TOS-1, the system remains in use today, alongside the more modern 152mm TOS-19. TOS-4 Tilepan. First operational with the Soviet Army starting around 1975, the TOS-4 Tilepan is a 240mm self-propelled mortar, around 400 examples of which are thought to have been manufactured. While there have been previous reports of the TOS-4 being withdrawn from Russian service on account of its limited range and low rate of fire, it's clearly still in service, likely now mainly using the msta-b laser-guided projectile. The TOS-4 makes use of an adapted tracked chassis from the Krug SA-4 Ganef surface-to-air missile system, but with a more powerful diesel engine and upgraded suspension. The system is operated by a crew of 4 on the vehicle itself, with another 5 soldiers being carried on the support vehicle, normally a 6x6 truck or a Montana LB multi-purpose armored tracked vehicle. The smoothbore mortar is the 2B8, transported on top of the hull in a horizontal position, together with a large baseplate. 2 drum-type magazines within the all-welded steel armored hull have the capacity for 40 mortar bombs. The vehicle has a front dozer blade to allow it to dig into its own firing position, and there is a 7.62mm machine gun for self-defense. The 2 main types of mortar bomb are conventional high-explosive fragmentation, with a maximum range of 6 miles, and high-explosive fragmentation, rocket-assisted, with a range of 11 miles. The msta-b laser-guided projectile was developed in the 1980s and has a maximum range of 5.7 miles. This is operated in conjunction with a forward artillery observer and is guided onto the target in the terminal phase using a laser designator. TOS-23 nona-svk. This 120mm self-propelled gun mortar is one of the more modern pieces of artillery deployed and entered service at the very end of the Soviet era, although initially only in small numbers. The 120mm mortar ammunition used in the TOS-23 is also employed on 2 different tracked fighting vehicle chassis, the TOS-9 Nona-S and TOS-31, as well as by the TOD-2B16 Nona-K operated by a crew of 4. The TOS-23 is based on a modified 8x8 BTR-80 fully amphibious armored personnel carrier chassis with the mortar mounted in a turret over the forward part of the hull. Typically, the TOS-23 is used by motorized rifle divisions, alongside BTRs, as well as by the naval infantry. The 120mm 2A60 is a rifled gun mortar and can also be used in a direct fire role, and there's a 7.62mm machine gun for self-defense. A total of 30 mortar rounds are carried in the vehicle's all-welded steel armor hull, and types include high-explosive fragmentation, with a maximum range of 5.5 miles, rocket-assisted high-explosive fragmentation, with a range of 8 miles, and fin-stabilized high-explosive anti-tank, HEAT. A laser-guided projectile, known as Kitolov 2M, is also likely to be available. TOS-9 Nona-S. The TOS-9 Nona-S first appeared in the early 1980s and is intended to serve as an airborne assault vehicle. In this way, it can provide conventional artillery support, replacing towed mortar and howitzer systems, as well as in a direct fire role as an anti-tank weapon. Despite its airborne origins, the TOS-9 is also found with regular ground forces and naval infantry, and around 1,000 examples are thought to have been produced. The chassis used in the TOS-9 is based on the aluminum hull, amphibious BTRD airborne combat vehicle, and has a crew of 4. The hull is divided into 3 compartments: command compartment, fighting compartment, and power pack. There is onboard storage for 25 rounds of 120mm ammunition for the 2A51 breech-loaded mortar, which can fire 6 to 8 rounds per minute. The same mortar round options as for the TOS-23 nona-svk are available, plus white phosphorus and smoke. With standard high-explosive fragmentation ammunition, targets can be hit at a range of 5.5 miles, extended to 8 miles using rocket-assisted high-explosive fragmentation rounds. The TOS-9 is air-transportable in Il-76 airlifters and can also be air-dropped from heights between 300 and 1,500 meters. BM-30 Smerch. The most powerful multiple launch rocket system, MLRS, in Russian service is the BM-30 Smerch, developed starting in the late 1970s and first identified by Western intelligence in 1983. Normally, the Smerch is deployed in brigades of 4 battalions, each of which has 12 9A-52 launchers, which are based on the 8x8 MAS-543M chassis, and each of which carries 12 tubes for 300mm rockets that can be fired individually or in salvos. As well as the 12 launchers, a complete battalion also includes various command and control system units on 6 CAMAS 4310 chassis, maintenance and repair units on 6x6 ZIL-131 chassis, meteorological stations also on ZIL-131 chassis, and topography vehicles on 4x4 GAZ-66 chassis. Ammunition reloads are carried by transport loader vehicles, also on MAS-543M chassis, each with 12 rounds and a crane. The maximum range of the 300mm rockets is 43.5 miles, and the various different types include unitary high-explosive, sub-munitions, with 72 fin-stabilized high-explosive fragmentation bomblets, 646 shaped charge fragmentation bomblets, top attack anti-armor, with 5 infrared-guided sub-munitions or 20 high-explosive anti-tank sub-munitions, anti-tank mine, with 25 individual mines, and thermobaric. There is also a tube-launched unmanned aerial vehicle payload, the R-90 Tipjack, that can operate out to a range of 43 miles and remain on station for 20 minutes. BM-27 Uragan. Firing 220mm rockets, the BM-27 Uragan is the middleweight MLRS in Russian service and has been in use since the mid-1970s, replacing older 240mm and 200mm systems. The Uragan was designed from the outset to be highly mobile, and it consists of a 16-round launcher on a modified 8x8 ZIL-135LM chassis. The rockets can be fired individually or in salvos. As well as the launcher vehicles, a complete Uragan battalion also includes a commander's vehicle on an 8x8 BTR-80 armored personnel carrier chassis, a chief of staff vehicle on a 6x6 Ural 4320 chassis, 3 battery commanders' vehicles on BTR-80 chassis, and 3 battery senior officers' vehicles on Ural 4320 chassis. Additional rockets are provided by transloader vehicles, also based on the ZIL-135LM chassis, with 1 or 2 typically being available for each launcher. At least 5 types of rockets have been identified as being used by the Uragan. These have a maximum range of 22 miles and include fragmentation sub-munition cargo, with 30 bomblets, thermobaric, cluster warhead, with 9 or 24 anti-tank mines. BM-21 Grad. Perhaps the best-known Russian MLRS is the Grad, the name of which came to prominence during the long Soviet war in Afghanistan and again during campaigns in Chechnya. The system was first deployed around 1963. Firing 122mm rockets, the Grad consists of a 40-round launcher on a 6x6 Ural 375D truck chassis, BM-21, or a 36-round on a 6x6 ZIL-131 truck chassis, BM-21B Grad-1. The complete Grad system comprises the BM-21 launcher vehicles as well as ammunition supply vehicles, plus a range of different rockets that can be fired individually or in salvos, either from the cab or remotely, via a 60 meters cable. The maximum range of the rockets was 13 miles. The Grad-1, with its 36 rocket tubes, was developed as a regimental level system, in contrast to the original divisional level Grad, and was fielded from the mid-1970s. The Grad-1 features a slightly different system composition, with the BM-21 launcher vehicles joined by transport vehicles and ammunition resupply vehicles. The primary rocket is the 9M28F high-explosive fragmentation round, but other options include incendiary, flare, smoke, and anti-tank mine. One more recent modernization of the BM-21, the Tornado G, which is superficially similar but armed with new rockets offering improved range and more powerful warheads, has also apparently appeared in the Ukrainian conflict. The original BM-21 versions are fielded by Russia and Ukraine, the latter reportedly also operating some Grads on the more modern 6x6 Kraz 6322 chassis. TOS-1A. Fulfilling a unique category within the Russian artillery category is the TOS-1A, which Russia categorizes as a heavy flamethrower, but which is actually a unique type of multiple launch rocket system based on a T-72 tank chassis and firing thermobaric rockets. You can read more about this notorious and misunderstood weapon in this previous feature. While it remains to be seen to what degree the above artillery systems, and potentially others, will be used as the conflict progresses, the signs are unfortunately pointing toward a more protracted campaign, with talks between Ukrainian and Russian officials so far having failed to find anything approaching common ground. As the Kremlin's invasion continues into its second week, the slower than expected progress made by the Russian forces on the ground will surely have led to growing frustration on the Russian side. Faced by dogged resistance, including in the key Ukrainian cities that are still holding out, extensive use of artillery, and all the horrific destruction it brings, looks like it will only become more likely